Oh, okay. Okay, we could be live. I think we might be live. This is a strange one for me. This is something I've never done before. This is live streaming with software, which is what everybody does, except I've never done it, so I don't really know what I'm doing. So, before we start, please let me know in the chat, which I can see over here, that you can hear both my voice and you can hear the music in the background, and hopefully hear my voice more than the background. That makes sense. Hey, Manu, good to see you. So yeah, I'm just gonna wait for a little bit of feedback in the chat. And while I'm doing that, I'm going to get a power supply for my laptop, which is about to run out of charge. 1 second. That's not it. Where is it? Oh, for crying out loud. What is going on? Okay. Alright, just bear with it. Bear with me. Good start. Good start, Mr. Vincent. Good start. Classic. Good, right, good. Power for that. Right. Put that in there. Right, so I'm not going to lose that halfway through. Good. Ugh. Hi, Andrew. Hi, Mr. Cisco. Good. So, yes. I can hear you fine. Some audio from the game. Good. Good, great. Alright. So I think we should start off probably with a beer. I just need to turn it down a little bit at my end. But I'm going to need to be able to hear it as well. Wow. So yeah, am I moving into game streaming? No, not intentionally. I just happened to be doing this one because I thought it was fun. And I was also finding it quite hard. And thought perhaps it might be fun to do it together, because it's like modular. No, it really is. If you haven't played the demo, it's well worth checking out, because it is. So let me try to explain after I've poured my beer. I need to focus on one thing at a time. Sorry. So I hope you're doing all right. I hope it's okay out there. I've just filmed the Molten Monthly today, which is quite exhausting. So I don't know why I'm doing this tonight. I don't know. Because there's a lot of stuff to talk about. Not that I talked about everything. But I talked about some things. So, the Signal State. What's it about? Well, it's a game. It's available on Steam for Mac or PC. It's about 15 quid, which is great. And it has this look about it that I like. This particular style of sci-fi. I've got some books by a guy. In fact, I've got some prints on the wall. A Swedish guy whose name escapes me, of course, does these wonderful things about Tales of the Loop. I don't know if you've seen that. It has very much that style about it, which I think is awesome. But the idea behind the game is that we have been thrown into some kind of post-apocalyptic future where all of machines have ceased to function. There's no reason necessarily given, no explanation. It's just they have ceased to function and have always been that way now. And we find ourselves in an abandoned farm which is full of machinery, and there's this great need to restore machines so that we can get agriculture working again and feed people. I seem to have some kind of minder or someone who's looking after me, who talks to me and talks me through things and gives me tasks to complete. Now, the way that we rewire all this machinery, because although it's ceased to function, it can be restarted through modular rewiring, which is quite a clever premise, I suppose. So you've been given this toolkit of a couple of modules, and what you do is you have to solve the puzzle. You have some inputs which come in, and you are supposed to achieve a defined output. In between, you have to stick together modules in order to patch them together to achieve that. So it might simply be the summing of two signals. It might be the modulation of two signals. So far it's been that easy, although I found it difficult because often it's doing maths and logic that I hadn't thought about before. But it is fascinating and potentially can teach you all sorts of things about those logic and maths aspects of modular that I don't really touch upon. I tend to just go sequencer, straight to oscillator, straight to filter, straight to out, and I'm enjoying playing in that simple space. Much of my modulation is done by hand, or it's just done through simple LFOs. So my approach to modular tends to be incredibly simplistic, like myself, really. And this has already been fascinating into how it could open up things to do, ways of looking at it. Honestly, it's amazing like that. So, or at least in the beginning, somebody says. Yes, Simon Stallenhag, thank you. Yeah, I've got a couple of his books. Fantastic. I've got the game on the way as well. Tales of the Loop. I kickstarted that board game, which I'm still looking forward to. Right, Fly. It looks like you're going to be very, very helpful this evening. Anyway, could have been an EMP blast. We don't really know. That is very cool, Mika. Very, very cool. So we shouldn't sit here blabbing, should I? I don't know. Let's get started. Let's see if we can, how drunk we can get. See where we get to. I don't expect by any stretch to get through the game. That's ridiculous. But let's play. Let's give it an hour and see what happens. Now I have already started. I'm about an hour in, so I will show you where we are. So what happens is this little fella comes up, Gordon. This is the second guy. There's a woman as well who's been looking after me up to this point. But we seem to be moving into logic, which is my worst thing. I mean, the funny thing about logic is I have studied logic in this matter of building logic gates and logic systems and that kind of thing. I don't find it, I do it very intuitively. So where I am currently is, can I show that? I don't know. I think we should just barrel on in. Anyway, so Gordon says, excellent. Now that the firmware programmer is working, I got that to work in my last task. We can give logic modules. We can get the logic modules working and give them a test. Now, will I read out everything that goes on the screen? I have no clue, because I say I'm doing this for the first time. I've not live streamed a game before, so I'm making this up as I go. So, hey, look, say let's go logic modules. Let's have some more information. Oh, you know, or, and not. No, I don't know. So logic modules take in one or two inputs, treating them as binary signals where positive voltage is on and negative is off. Then they output another binary signal based on some logical operation. See, within this piece of software, within this game, are all sorts of useful bits of information that maybe you've been too embarrassed to ask over on Modular Grid or Mod Wiggler. So we have an OR module which returns an on signal if either of its are on, I think we got that. Right, I think we've got it. Yeah, should be able to get started. Right, let's get started. So, this is our objective. If source 1 and source 2 are both 100 volts, send 100 volts to out 1. Otherwise, send 0 volts to out 1. So that sounds like an AND gate to me. But there's another objective. If either source 1 or source 2 are 100 volts, send 100 volts to out 2. Otherwise, send 0 volts. So that sounds like an OR. Then we have a third one. If source 1 and source 2 are both 0, and send 100 volts to out 3. Otherwise, send... Okay, we have to think about that one. We'll get to that one in a minute. So this is what the game looks like. I've got something buzzing around. You've got your rack at the top and in the middle, 2 rows. And you've got this down the bottom, and then this shows you what your outcomes should be. And then it shows you how far away from your outcomes you actually are. So you put it together, and then you hit the play button, and it tries it out for you. So here are our descriptions over on the left, and our modules are here. Ooh, look, we've got these gates now. Get out of it! It's like something flying around at me. Come on, clear off. Right, so first thing you're probably going to need is a split. 2 of them. So I can take my source 1 in there, source 2 in there. I've now got mults, so I can use more than one because I'm going to be doing more than one thing. So the first thing we need to do, if source 1 and source 2 are both 100 volts, so if we look down here, source 1 and source 2, if they're both on at the same time, our out should be on. There, 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 there. So that sounds like an AND gate, I think. Both of them on, it's on. Go back to our modules, take an AND gate, let's put them down here. So if that's on, and that's on, the output should go to source 1. Now we can test that just to see if that bit's right, but the other 2 won't be right. Camera hides the modules. Oh, awesome. Whatever happens, is that going to be a thing? Where can I put myself? Logic modules, I could put myself on the top right. Alright, I'll move myself to the top right, so I'm unlikely to use that space. Yeah, don't worry about the voltage level. It's all going to be relative, depending on what comes out. So if you imagine on this grid down here, that one step up, I think, is 100. Anyway, let me just momentarily pause, and I'm going to reposition my talking head. Up there somewhere. Just checking that looks better. There, that's better. I think I'll try to focus on the middle section. Okay, good. Right. So as I say, modules, let's show those, are here. You see those? So at the moment all we've got, well, this particular one, is a split, a sum, and 3 logic gates. Don't even have a VCA this time around. That's pretty poor. So I've wired this one up. Let's just check to see whether that works. I just hit play, and it plays through, and you can see that out 1 is correct. nobody minds, I'm going to turn the music off. Yeah, I know with an infinite supply of NAND gates you can make anything you like. I appreciate that very much. Right. Okay, let's focus in. So, number 2, source 1 and 2 are at 100. We thought that was going to be an OR gate, didn't we? So let's take an OR, stick that down. That goes to number 2. So the third one, we don't need to test that. We'll test it all together at the end in a minute. I can still hear it. That's got it. So, source 1 and source 2 are both at 0 volts. So if they are both at 0, send 100 volts to out. So presumably this is going to be a NOT. What does a NOT gate do? If the input signal is more than 0 volts, this module outputs that, otherwise it outputs 100. Okay, so I reckon a pair of NOT gates, but that gives me 2 outs. So I'm going to need not that one. So what do you think? An OR gate? See, I'm not listening to you at the moment because I think I can do it by myself. So if I take an OR gate, put that into a NOT gate to reverse it, put that into output 3. Do we reckon that's going to work? The logic modules are also binary quantizers. An AND followed by a NOT, says Ian. Is it? If they're both, rather than one or the other, yeah, you're right. All right, get rid of that. It's an AND. Give that a go. Cool. Something there didn't work. So it was giving me, it was following out 2. Did I do that right? Out, that's 1. That's that. What did I do wrong there then? Into out. 3 looks upside down on the scope. It should be upside down to out 2. So actually what I want to do, maybe I'm doing this 2. So maybe I was right with my OR gate then. Yeah, I think I was. In fact, I could, if I'm clever, take a split, then take this into there, to number 2, take it into there. See? I think that would work. Let's try it. Oh yeah. Who said I needed an AND gate? And that, my friends, is how you repair machinery in the not too distant future. I scored something in the region of 1443rd in the world. All right, good. Yeah, nice. There seems to be points awarded for cable length. I'm not sure whether they're for short length or long length, whether you should be packing them together or stretching them far apart. Unknown at this time. So apparently logic modules are really powerful. You're not just doing basic maths now, you can change how signals flow with logic. Oh no, can we? In what way is this more powerful? Ha ha! You'll see soon enough. Right. Thanks. Okay, so these, in fact, are all of the ones I've been through so far. The early starts. Now we've just done the logic test. So far I've made a power generator, a circuit breaker, some farmhouse lights, some barn lights, a firmware programmer, and a power regulator again. No, a power generator was the last one. Short for a higher score, says Fly. Read the manual? What manual? What are you talking about? Just playing a game, man. Come on, be groovy. You, get knotted. What are you? Some bug. Anyway, next. So, clear off. So we're going to need a minimum and maximum modules. Right, what do these do? Minimum takes in 2 inputs and outputs. Takes in 2 inputs and outputs the smaller of the 2. Okay, and max does the opposite. Right. Let's give it a shot. So we're doing a test just to work out how these work. Source 1, 2 and 3 are random signals. Output 1 receives the greatest signal and out 2 receives the smallest. Good, right. So, modules, we're going to need a split as ever. I mean, I'm assuming I can't take more than one out of a thing. No, there's no ability. No, I don't think so. Okay. So we're talking about small lengths of cables then. Get off, get off, get off. Get off. Let's keep it together. So what we're doing, minimum and maximum. In 1 and in 2. Alright, so the slight fly in the ointment here is I have 3 sources and I only have 2 inputs into my minimum maximum. Does that mean I need to calculate 2 first? So for instance, if I take the out of 1 and the out of 2, take that out into another minimum to take the out of 3. Would you concur? Cable should be as long as possible. You get more parasitic capacitance that way. Right, good, good. Thanks, Ian. So anyway, I think that's right. So I think I do the same here, yeah? So I'm just barreling on here. I'm going to take the maximum out of those 2, because the idea being I take the highest value of those 2 and then compare it with the highest with number 3. That should work, right? Well, this is my first theory. If it doesn't work, I'll then look for which way round is it? Output 1 receives the greatest. 2 receives the smallest. Give it a go. Lovely. Cascading them works. Brilliant. What am I taking too long or something? Must be. Evidently. I'm way down the list now. Alright, I got it. Anyway, enough hand holding. Let's try more complex circuits. Alright, let's get to it. Irrigation system. Let's go. Oh, it's back to Miriam again. This is the woman who welcomed me into the place in the first place. She's hiding something. She's definitely withholding information because she's not telling me enough about what is actually going on. Apparently, I should be familiar with how VCAs and logic modules work. Yeah, I think so. Good. Next step. Need to prepare the crop fields for planting. Require an irrigation system. Central pump. Precise rate of flow. You'll need to regulate the flow using the given control signals. Combine the concepts you've learnt so far. VCA gating and logic. Oh dear. So when source 2 and it's put in things 3 are at 100 volts, send source 1 to out 1. That's interesting. If either 2 or 3 but not both, send the inverse to out 1. If both. See, I told you it gets hard. It gets hard really quick. Okay. This is frightening. So there's source 1. So I've now got my attenuverter back. I've got a bias as well, which I don't fully understand. I've got my VCA back. Right, well, let's put up a split to start with. So when source 2 and 3 are at 100, when they're both at 100, send. So source 2 and 3 essentially need an AND gate. So 2 and 3. So when that happens, I'm going to want to stick in a VCA for number 1 going in to out 1. How does that sound? Bias just adds voltage. Thanks, Neil. In fact, why don't I try it? Okay, so some of that is definitely working. I didn't quite twig that everything is going to out 1, so I need to put something else in the way. So I need to combine the output. So I've done that. If either 2 or 3, but not both, are at 100 volts, send the inverse. So I probably need to put in an OR gate. No. So 2 or 3. So if that happens, cool, okay. Right. Right, so when these are both at 100, so my AND gate, then I send source 1 to out 1. So when that's on, that's then going to there. So this is the point at which other things happen. So this is going to be inverted. This is going to go into a NOT gate. How do I... So using an OR gate, I can send an inverse, but then how do I switch between that? Because my thinking at the moment is along the lines of doing this. What have I got? Source 1, this one. But then how do I swap between those? No, that's not what I'm trying to do. It's not the inverse, is it? Okay, so any thoughts? I've only got what I've got. I don't have an XOR. No switch. No switch. Can you move the output module? Yeah, is that helpful? Attenuverter, yeah. Well, I've got an attenuator which does go minus as well as positive. So to invert the signal, I would assume I would take the out of that into the in, put that to minus 100%. That's now an inverted signal, and I've now got a swap between these two. I don't sum them, or I guess, but or just is binary, 100 volts. It's the inverse of sine 1, because that's not. So this can't be controlled by logic, because can it? Because they're all just put it on or off, as opposed to trying to get this signal through. Takes an input and shifts it by a constant offset. Don't need an offset. Sums them together and outputs the sum. Split takes one input and takes it to 4. Two VCAs and a sum can work as a switch, says Neil. I've only got one destination. So I've got two outcomes here that I think are similar, but why is I've got, come on brain, I can do this, can't I? So when 2 and 3 are at 100 volts, you allow source 1 to go to the output. Yes. So at the moment, source 1 is a variable signal. It's not an on or off, it's a variable signal, which is what we want. So we don't want it going through a gate, as far as my thinking goes. So that seems right. Now, if either source 2 or 3, but not both, are at 100 volts, send the inverse of source 1 to out 1. This is not coming to me as easy at all. Come on, let's be some more help in the chat then. Can you connect two cables to the output? I don't believe so. VCA, I've only got one of those. It still ends me up with one. How do I combine? How do I switch between signals? Because that's to do with 100 volts. Unless I need to do something between the output of the and the control over this thing here. Maybe that's where it lies. Maybe that's where the logic lies. So if I look at this a minute, what am I getting right? I really don't know. I just know it needs to go negative more. That's where the bits are going wrong. It's not swapping to the other side. Flipping heck. Send the sum of those two signals and see what happens. Okay, so might as well try something as opposed to not trying something. That's always a good idea. Stop playback first. Do beg your pardon. Sum. Right. Sum in there. Sum to there. Out. That was something. Maybe there's the third element that we haven't got. So we need to do a NAND gate. If both. Yeah, so we need to do a NAND gate for that. Which, can you do that with a NOT and a... Yeah, so if I go back here, if I put in a couple of NOTs and an AND gate and take out 2 and 3. If I would sum that in, I'm not really understanding the sum bit at the moment, but I'm just going to give that a go. Yeah, no, I know Ben Jordan did a stream about it. I watched his stream. That's why we're here. And here we are doing a similar sort of thing again. But instead of having Ben's immense brain and experience at this, we just have me farting around. Or we go directly in and it's the output that goes into there. Am I just making this up as I go now? Oh, look, I've got it all wrong now. Right, right. So I was closer before. Sum after the VCAs. Yeah, I've got that. Thanks, Neil. Send just the sum of these two signals and see what changes. Sum of what two signals? I thought I did that already. So here's my sum. Here's all three signals. It was better the other way around. Let me just take rid of that NOT gate for the moment. Let me just use this and just put that through. Now it's very close. So that's putting in 100. See, I don't. So the third one. Send 0 volts. It's almost like when you get these two are both. When these two are both on 0, it needs to kill this completely and send 0 volts to out 1. But then none of this is particularly at 0. Oh, wow, man. So this is obviously wrong. I want it to be the opposite, but I'm just swapping the opposite. I need the result to be opposite. No, I don't. Okay, I'm happy to accept any suggestions at this point. So if I take this third signal out just for a moment, can I do that? What's it? And just run it. Okay. It's not far off. So I don't think I need to, I don't think this means the, I think these three things are being mixed together. That's the vital bits of information that's sort of missing. So this something is right. So it's putting in, I've got to put in 100 volts. Now I've got to put source 1 into the sum machine when they're both at 100 volts. Okay. But if either of them are at the 100 volts, I send the inverse to the mix. That's what I've done so far. So I've also got to do, if both are at 0, then send 0. So I've got to have something which sends 0. Output's 100 when inputs are at more than 0 volts. So I need to have a zeros, 2 zeros resulting. So it's not the opposite of that, is it? Well, no, no, because that would convert. I want it to be 0. Oh, it's there somewhere in my brain. It's almost there. Yeah, I'm using an attenuator over here, well, an attenuverter, essentially. So the thing that I'm stuck on at the moment, let me get rid of that. These bits appear to work. First two bits I think are accomplished. What's not working is I need to take 0 volts out when output 2 and output 3 are at 0, so that's an AND, definitely an AND, then 0 volts goes into here. So I need to take it when both of them are at 0, I get a 0 into my sum. How do I do that is the question. If I put in an AND gate, it will give me 100 volts if both are more than 0. But I don't want that. So whenever there's nothing, maybe I'm doing this, maybe it's not in 3 sections. Maybe this has to be contained within the other section. So whenever this output is 0, no. Oh, damn it, I didn't know we'd get stuck. There's probably people at home screaming at the screen going, oh my goodness me. So, a bias set to 0. All right, well, let me bring in a bias. Controls the amount of bias if there's no input. If there is no input, it outputs the current value of 0. Hints. Okay, I need a hint. Honestly, we do. This one combines two ideas you should be familiar with, logic and gating. Break the specs into 3 parts and solve them one by one. Yeah, that's definitely what I'm trying to do. Solving the first part involves an AND. Yes! Second part is a bit trickier. Only send the inverse if either source 2 or source 3 are 100 volts, but not when they are both at 100. Now I think I did that. Only send the inverse if either. So I've used an OR. Yeah, but not when they are both. That's interesting. So am I doing something wrong there? It's either. Because an OR gate would also do it when it's both. Otherwise it's an exclusive OR. Not when they're both. How do I build an exclusive OR? I really don't think they've given us anywhere near enough information. To check. Use an OR. Yeah, okay. Okay. Yeah, I know that. I understand that. You can check that only one of the 2 sources at 100 volts with the help of the signal from your AND in the first part. Now that's interesting. Let me come back to this. But not both. All right, I'm just going to experiment for a minute. Somebody give me the answer. Otherwise, this is just strangely doing my head in. I'm going to take that into that, that into that. I'm going to take part of this out and into there and that into there. All right, that was a disaster. So if that is OR, oh, I know what I needed to do. I needed to take this output . How the hell did I pull that off? Oh my goodness. Well, look, I didn't do too bad. I'm under the 2000ths. Whew. So I think we made some assumptions there about how things occur. I have to you have to read it individually, but also read it as a whole, if you know what I mean. It's so tricky. We're all right to carry on. Am I hemorrhaging viewers at the moment? Probably. Anyway, Miriam says, excellent work. Thanks. Why didn't you just tell me the answer? I asked enough. Can you hear the water flowing? Oh, no, I can't. Oh, gee whiz. Yes, Ken, I agree. I do agree. That mess. So an irrigation distribution circuit. Are we ready for this? Can we do more? Yeah, I've still got half a pint to drink, so I'm all right. I'll just carry on. Yeah, no, there wasn't a gnaw. Right, now that the pump is working, distribution circuit. Takes a water flow and distributes it. Okay. So I'm just getting stuck straight in. So source 1 is an input signal. Source 2 and 3 are CV signals. Okay. For two separate VCAs that control the intensity of source 1. Good. If source 1's intensity is higher when controlled by source 2, send source 1 control to out 1. Otherwise send... Oh God. It's a blank page of Eurorack death. Right. This split business is, I have to say, a little bit annoying after a while. You're assuming absolutely that you're splitting these signals because you're going to use them more than once. It's almost as if they should automatically have built-in mults like you do in voltage modular, I would say. So I'm just going to keep these a bit further away, trying to organise myself. So this is the input. And we've got VCAs, they said. So a couple of VCAs. That 2 and 3 affect. Alright, let's just wire up as I go. So if we look at those signals, 2 and 3. Okay. It's not important. So if I put the output into there, then 2 is controlling its thing. And if I put it into there, 3 is controlling its thing. So again, it feels like I need a switch. I've got minimum maximum this time. Interesting. See, that's a comparator. So if the intensity is higher when controlled by 2, right, then send source 1 controlled by 2, this one, to there. So 2 and 3 go into there. This then needs to turn on a gate. Right. Outputs 1 in 1 or in 2, whichever is greater. No, that's not what I want. I need that to then... I don't have any gates now. Oh, gee whiz. I want that to open. So that's going into there and going into there. Okay, now that's not it, but let's just have a look a minute. Okay. Just need 2 VCAs. It says it's sending the max. Alright, let's get rid of that for a second. So I think this happens the other way around. Good work. Lovely. So, objectives. When signal from source 1 is more than 25. Oh, wow. Right. So when the signal from source 1 is more than 25, out 1 receives 100 volts. Otherwise it receives 0 volts. So what I do is I take a bias, set that to 25, don't I? Put in a max. No. Yes. something in there with that. because that's just going to send out, outputs the offset signal. So current value is 25. So don't we want a minimum? Outputs whichever is smaller. How is that going to help me? How is that going to help me? So, okay. So this lets through whichever is smaller. So it's never going to get higher than 25. No. Good Lord. No. Shall we just sort of turn on Fortnite or something? Shall I play a bit of Call of Duty? And we can, you know, I don't know, just have a little bit of carnage rather than this mind-melting exercise of, good Lord, help me. The bias is a red herring. Yeah, I think it is. But there's nothing on the minimum or maximum to set any kind of threshold. So how do I... Okay, I mean, if I was to put something into something like this, I can't do fives. So I can't do 75, then that's irrelevant. So it's not anything to do with that. I just suddenly had an idea of, I don't know what I had an idea doing. No, it's not a red herring, is it? I had to bring this down by 25. Get off. Right, so this is now below 0, essentially, when it's less than 25. Until it reaches a value of 25, it's always going to be 0. So at that point, this needs to go through an OR gate like that. So output's 100 if either inputs are more than 0. So when this gets to be above 25, that's going to trigger this OR gate, which will give me an output. Do you not think so? No, not really. minus 9 is out, so that goes to there. That gives it a 0, which is right. When the signal is more than 25, so source 1 here, okay, let's go back here, source 1 there, let's see what happens. So at this point, source is 96, so it should get, the signal is more than 25, out 1 receives 100, which it is, otherwise it receives 0. Okay, I'm looking at out 1. Out 1 is correct. Yes. Let's play that some more. Sorry, I didn't notice that. So out 1 is correct. Our problem now is the comparator to out 2. So out 2 checks the value of sources 1's signal after it has been decreased by 25 volts. If the signal is still more than 0, oh crikey, checks the value of its signal after it is decreased. So here it checks the value here somehow. If it's still more than 0, output receives, otherwise it receives . See, that middle one seems to give it away as to what you do here, oddly. Again, it's this real difficulty in switching things. Does anybody know how to do the second half of this? Remove the first split, add a split after the BIOS. Yeah, no, I'm seeing that. I mean, that's of no consequence. So you can type in the module. What module can I type in? Oh, what, this one? Oh, what you mean for the attenuverter? I can type in there 75%. No, I can't. 68%. No, it goes to the nearest one. So that's not a factor. 75 says Steve. This is torture. Okay, no. Come on, think. We've accomplished the first bit. We now need to do this weird check where we check if the signal is more than 0 when this comes out. So more than 0 is going to cause something to happen. It receives something. Otherwise, it receives. So if this is more than 0, God darn it. So I put like, no, it's not an and, is it? It's not when both of them are on. So if it's more than 0, it receives 100. That's doing exactly the same as that. Otherwise, it receives that one. I don't understand what it's asking me to do, because that's just exactly the same. So it receives 100 volts, or receives naught. Output checks the value of sources 1 signal after it's been decreased. Yes, so here, if the signal is still more than 0, but isn't that what it's doing already? But we're talking about out 2, so we need another out. I don't quite get it. Now all that stuff I wrote on Gear News about this teaching you how to use modular. What? What? It was though. It was really feeling like I was learning something. Now I'm just baffled. Thank you, third the 8th, 3-8. But this is, see, what I'm arguing with is that on the screen it says that if the signal is still more than 0, and we're talking about after it's been decreased by 24 volts. But if it's still more than 0, which is what's triggering this OR gate, funnily enough, then out receives 100%, which is what 1 is doing. In fact, aren't they exactly the same? They are almost exactly the same. But there's something else going on. So it's like they're getting this one or this one. So it's like I'm doing this. That's what it feels like. No! Okay, so now out 1 and out 2 are getting exactly the same. So what have I got wrong here? But I don't want it to be out 100, do I? Because that's giving me 100 every time. Okay, any more clues? Any more clues, team? Use VCAs as interlinked relays. Yeah, but I don't know what that looks like, mate. So thanks for the suggestion, but you need to be more specific. Need something like a Schmidt trigger. You need a sum of the output from the OR gate and a VCA control from the output. Add the bias signal with the current out to output 2. Didn't I try that already? So this is the bit that still works. You just want to take that straight to output 2. So this signal needs to go here. Needs to go here. If it's more than 0. God darn it. You can get hints. Yeah, I know. I've done that already. I mean, I've done that previously. I'll have a look at that in a second. Tried reversing the polarity of the neutron flow. No. No. You deleted a part of it. I deleted something that wasn't doing anything. Sum plus VCA. Oh my goodness. Well, I've got minus 25 bias going into an OR gate, but then you need plus minus 25 bias. I don't quite understand. Right. Okay, so it looks like I'm just going to have to sit here and think it out. So out 2 checks the value. So that's this. It checks the value of sources 1 signal after it's been decreased. So that's that. Directly to it. That's checking the value. Because it's been decreased by 25. If the signal is still more than 0, it gets 100 volts. So if it goes into an OR gate, if the signal is more than 100, that works. But that's exactly the same as I've got going to out 1 at the moment. That's exactly the same. But otherwise, so if it isn't more than 0, it gets source 1. See, that's the bit I don't understand. So if it's still more than 0, I don't understand the word still either. But if the signal is, so it gets the output after it's been decreased by 25. Okay, but if it's still more than 0, right, it gets 100 volts there. So it gets 100 volts if it's more than 0. If it's not more than 0, it doesn't get, it gets this output. So if it's less than 0, so this only gets a thing. So when this is not happening, when there's no output, it gets that other one. I just don't have, I don't feel like I have the right, well of course I have the right modules, but it doesn't feel that way. So it's going to get this one. So VCAs can act as gates. So when this is more than 0, that will work. But when it's less than 0, I need this. Send the bias signal with the OR signal. You reckon a not after the OR? Right, so I've got to get everything's going to start getting confused if we're not careful. But what can we do, eh? Okay, that was helpful, but it didn't get the 100%. It didn't get the 100. So that's now what's that done? So that's when that I don't know what that's done. It's knotted it. So output's 100% depending on the input. So that was good, but it's not getting the 100% when this is greater than something. So it's getting the right answer when things are less than 25. It's getting the right answer. So that's fine. It just needs to be overridden somehow. Okay, so any more thoughts? Sum, not multiply. Okay. Get rid of the VCA and add a sum instead. Really? I don't understand. I don't understand sums. So you reckon I should go in there and take that out? No, that's nowhere near, I'm afraid, my friend. So this is close. But when this output is above 0, or, I mean, for heaven's sake, I could take the original that when it's above 25, but I don't know how to do. I don't know how to do that. So when this is above 0, which will cause, which could fire a logic gate. And that gets 100. Which is what this is doing. So I need that to go into there. Except when this is a thing. Oh, flipping heck. How do I do? I can't do a minimum, maximum, can I? Okay, sorry. So Chris says, or to not to VCA. Yeah, that's what I've done. Okay, so I've done that bit. So obviously we're trying to work out our time difference here. You need a not after the second or. Yeah, okay, did that. All on the right page. You've got a 2HP logic module. Sum the output from the OR and VCA. Remove not. Someone else says remove not. Do not remove not. So, but I did that already. I did the VCA. I removed the VCA and I put in a sum and it didn't work. Please remove the not. Why? Okay. So now it's all wrong. It's just following, well, I don't know what it's following exactly. So that's it without the not. It seemed better with the not. Okay, just a goddamn minute now. Let's get that out of the way. So what I'm wrestling with is why that worked. it's summing. I'm obviously not appreciating properly what the summing is doing. So if I put in a point, any point, we can pause it at that point. So this is at -84. So we want to take it to a higher bit. Okay. So the out here sums all of the inputs. Now the inputs we've got are 100 and 57, and yet the output is 100. It outputs the sum of all inputs. I mean, this was what I didn't understand. I assumed the sum would add all these things up as opposed to something else. That's what I don't get. Why is this output 100 when I've got 57 and 100 going in? So I guess 100 is the maximum, is what it's saying. Right, so armed with that piece of information, that the sum module will stop at 100 when you add stuff up, that kind of makes a difference. But because it allows you to add a logic 100 to the sum mixer to make it 100, regardless of what else is going in there, and essentially mutes the other things, which can act as a switch between two kinda signals. That's slightly frustrating. How do I now get back out of this? Do I just play it again? Quite high up the leaderboard on that one. Interesting. Things are starting to come together. Well, I'm running out of beer. Where are we? 10:30? How are we all doing out there? There's fights breaking out. So maximum headroom is 100. Right, okay. But like I say, that sort of turns it into a logic gate of its own. Sort of. But, you know, I don't know these things necessarily. God, I really thought this was going to be a bit more of a laugh. Oh, there's something happening. So we need to calibrate the radio broadcast system. All right. Oh, there's something going on. We've got to communicate with somebody. Start work on the broadcast system. Oh my goodness, let's go do that. So, source 1 is a random signal with occasional voltage spikes. Spikes are always at least 75 volts. Send source 1 to out 1, but with the voltage spikes filtered out. Send naught instead. Look, I've only got to do two things. All we've got to do is quantize that down a bit, where the spikes are. So what we need then, I suspect, is a bias set to what, 75? And then we do or if I set it to minus 75, sum so if this is at minus 75, when source 1 gets above minus 75, that hits above 0. The 0 then triggers this and sends out 100. Is that what we want? No. Okay. But when this happens, it needs to send 0. In which case we could do that. But I still need to do the something to do with the comparison. See, I don't know what I'm just making up what a sum does now. Okay, that was close. I'm just really high because of the sum output. Okay. In modular, a sum will never output an overrail voltage. Yeah, okay, fair enough. Yeah, this should be easy. Yeah, yeah. Do we have a comparator? We have a max and a minimum. Over here, maximum and minimum. Compare two things and outputs the higher or the lower. Right, so okay, let me think again. So this thing here seems sound. I've got minus 75. I'm summing it with the output of source 1 so that whenever it's over 75, the OR gate gives me 100. I put it through a NOT gate so that whenever it's more than 75, I get 0 out of here. That's what I want. But I only want that to happen when that's 0. So in other words, I want an AND gate in there. But it doesn't give me the signal, does it? It only gives me 100. I don't want 100. I want that signal to go through. Stop that for a minute. So that's 0 when it's 75 volts, but I only want that to go through so I want to gate it. When this is 0, and this is 0. I don't know, want to invert it. I'm making it up now. I'm making it up. Okay, so that is achieving the aim of when it's when this is 0, see, the problem is I don't know why, really. There's glimmers of sense and logic in my head that go, oh, try to, oh, but it's a bit of trial and error. Good Lord. See, it's a terrible idea, the man says. What's going on? Do you think everyone out there just wants to hurt us? Oh. This is dangerous. What are you all talking about? This is all the post-apocalyptic stuff. Tom, have you got into this nonsense? Didn't have to sum with the bias. You could have put the signal into the bias's input. Could I? Yes, you're right. That's what that does. Yeah. Yeah, I wasn't really thinking clearly on the bias thing. You're right. Okay, so something about survival and stuff, but at the moment I don't really give a monkeys. We're going to try... Oh, there's an... What? Optional? Radio clocking system? So why don't we do this radio bit and then we'll call it a night. Does that sound all right? I mean, assuming we can get through them. Open mic night, yeah. Well, it is making... I mean, regardless, it is making me think about logic. It's making me think about how those things actually function and what do they do. How it would help me make music. At this point, I do not know. I've felt really strongly, I said this earlier, that in the first few levels, I thought, wow, this is really unearthing things I don't know anything about. I really felt the potential of something coming through and going on, and this being really helpful to me. At this stage, not so much. I mean, it's interesting. Don't get me wrong. I'm not hating it. I'm enjoying it as an exercise in puzzling something out. But the hope I had of this teaching me something new and interesting about my Eurorack, I'm not convinced by that. I think you'd need to be a lot further down the road perhaps into this thing already than I am. But who knows? So let's try this optional one for shits and giggles, yeah? Improve the amplification circuit. This one is optional. Could make the signal cleaner. Oh heck, distribution. Well, let's jump in. Nearly finished my beer. So, radio amplification circuit. Redistribute signals from source 1 to out 1 and out 2. Okay. If source 1 is less than, oh shit, or equal to 40 volts, then out 1 receives source 1 and out 2 receives 0 volts. Okay. See, I still don't know how to do that. And what have we got? Got a VCA. Okay. So if source 1 is less than or equal to 40 volts, I found that negative numbers seem to work better. It's less than So if this is going through here with minus 40 on it, then while this is 0, I like that arrangement of a bias with an OR gate. So when this goes above 0, then this happens to 100. When this happens to 100, oh my goodness me. So I can use, so when this goes above, so when source 1 goes above 40, I'm getting a switch here, which I can use to switch on a VCA. So when that goes above, so when that goes above, then out 1 receives 40 volts. But when it's less than, then it should get pure source 1, should go through. So when that has an output, it's like if there was just a switch, it would make things so much easier. But then I still haven't quite worked out how to build one exactly. So that's, I'm liking that, but I need to be able to compare that. So when that is 0, that's getting out the right thing. So that's minus 20. Still gives a 0. And in fact, it should have source 1. So when this is 0, I've got no attenuverter. Oh, looks. Oh, I had an idea there for a minute and now it's gone again. No, I've lost my mind. Right. This is going to involve mins and maximums. Is that what you think? Sadly, there aren't any, mate. Thank you, Mikhail. So, once again, no help from the team. Right, come on, think about it. Think about it. Now, I'm not using anywhere near enough logic. So I've got this bit going on. That seemed to make some kind of sense. Because when my source is going through, whenever it's less than or equal to 40 volts, I get 0 happening here. And when nothing is happening here, no, what am I doing? So I've got this thing about 40 volts going on. That's sort of like the second bit. So source 1 less than 0, then out 1 receives source 1. So with this bit, so when this bit happens, which is what I've got here, See, what I can't get my head around is how you take two signals and decide what's going to happen to them. That's the thing I'm really, really struggling with. I've got no problem in opening a VCA as a gate to let something through. That's fine. I understand that. I understand offsetting with biases. I understand if you've got two signals and they're both on, you get an AND gate to work. What I can't quite grasp is how you get signals through at a certain thing. But I guess you use a VCA for that because you control it by CV. But as soon as you involve logic, you've got 0 and 100 rather than the signal. That's what's making my brain hurt. Right, let's try a hint again then. Solve out 1 and out 2 separately. Okay. Subtract 40 volts from source 1. Yes. Yeah. Got that. Use an OR module to check if the value is positive or not. Yes. Out 1 will never receive more than 40 volts. So this is correct. This bit here is correct. If source 1 is less than interval, then out 1 receives source 1. So when this is happening, this receives source 1. So when that is 0, then that is 0. So I need that to be inverted. So now when this is 0, that turns out to 100, which turns this open. So when this is 0 or less than 0, by which I mean equal to or less than 40 because of the bias, then that will open this and allow that through. Looks like I completely flunked that one. I've got too many zeros in there. So I haven't got the alternative. So when those zeros, it should be 40. So when this closes, when there isn't anything, it should be 40. So I've got my 40 here. So when that's 0, God damn it, my head. don't have a min or a maximum. So when this is naught, no, that's not what I mean. No, it is what I mean. I had a train of thought there and it's now escaping me. So I still end up with two things, and how do I put two things into one place? The only thing I can use for that is a sum, but I'm not fully understanding the whole summing thing. If I stick that in there and that in there and set that to an output. Okay. Oh, I never noticed that bit before. Well, by golly, I got there. I got to that bit. So out 2 receives 0. At that same point. Otherwise it receives that. I don't get that. So this gets 40, I suppose, on an inverse. That's why. This is why the sum works. If something is creating a value when the other one isn't, then you can use the sum essentially to switch between those two things. It's the use of the sum that's really messed me about. It's not. I guess I've got to think of it as a mixer. Where if you've got two conditions, you can put those two conditions into one thing, because you're not summing them. I mean, you are, but it's acting as provided you've got the on-off thing going on, so through a VCA, then something's going to work. Provided they're not happening at the same time, which they shouldn't be, because you're supposed to have different outcomes. That is what I need to understand. So, source 2, output 2. So it must receive 0, nothing at all. So I could stick in a VCA, for instance, at this point. Sorry. So we'll get zeros. And it will get zeros when this is true, or when this is true. I'm lost again now. Where's this outcome? Goes from there. Yeah, when this is true. So when this is true, it gets 0 volts. Otherwise, it gets this signal here. Nope. Do I need to invert that again? Oh, I was nearly up to the thousandths then. It does not seem like an enjoyable game. Well, it is and it isn't. The added pressure of sitting here while half a dozen people are looking at you, you know, that's interesting. That adds to it. I've also had a beer. I don't think I want to be doing that again. It's definitely starting to chip away and unearth things in my head that I wasn't aware of before. And I imagine as I work through this, I'm going to find these ideas reinforced time and time again. So perhaps I will be learning something. For instance, I felt in this particular one that I was understanding a VCA as a gate more. And I was starting to grasp what that sum meant. And so in terms of potential understanding of something, maybe it is there. Maybe it is working on me. I don't know. But I think we probably better call it a night, don't you? The story's getting bleak. So there we go. We did the radio amplification circuit. Optional. That was an optional bit of nightmare, that was. So I still got minimum maximum redesign, and I've got the radio clocking system to do. But I think that's probably enough for us. Probably enough. I mean, the concept of the game, the way it's been put together is very competently done, I think. I mean, evidently the people who designed this are completely fascinated with logic and have a particular way of doing things, which if you don't understand that, you're going to struggle to start with. Because I mean, I guess there's these two dynamics going on. One dynamic in Eurorack is that if there's something that you want to do, you buy the solution to make that happen. You buy the utility which will provide the functionality you need to make something happen. The other side of Eurorack is that you should use the things you've already got to achieve the thing you're trying to do, through the use of little mixers and VCAs and logic gates and bits and pieces. You can do all of these things. But the easier way is to go, sod it, I'll buy a disting because I know that's bound to have it in there somewhere. Because I've got these logic circuits here. Ugh. I don't mean because these fellas. I know I'm on a little tiny screen, but you know, deal with it. And I totally get what they do at a very, at a surface level. You've got an AND and an AND and an OR and an OR and an XOR. I know what's going to come out of each of those. It's not a question of what does it do, because logic gates are actually very simple. The question is, what do I do with it? What does it achieve? What do they allow me to do? I mean, I have looked into it a little bit, because I plan to do a video on logic at some point. Obviously, evidently, I am not ready. But in watching a couple of videos, most of it tends to be about just sort of pulling out slightly different drum patterns than the ones you put in. You know, and that's a valid use. That's okay. But it's why not just write the pattern you want in the first place? It's been my feeling on it. I don't know. It requires a little bit more from my point of view, I think. So yeah, interesting. Hard, as I said. I told you it was hard, and it was. But Fly particularly, thank you for your help in there. All frustrating, the real patching. Yeah. It is a fantastic idea for a game, Nick. Absolutely. It's really fascinating to see it. Not for modular noobs. No, maybe not. But, I mean, does it have to be for modular people at all? Really? Because all it's doing is providing you with tools to solve a problem. The same as it would in any other game. Any other game, you might be given some runes. You might be given some dice. You might be given a picture that you have to complete, you know? Or maybe it's a water system that you're having to turn pipes to certain places to let the water flow through. It's purely using modular synthesis as a puzzle device, which is interesting. So it doesn't actually require any pre-knowledge at all. It just requires a brain where you can think through these concepts of logic and maths and putting things together. Some of the criticism I think I'm having at the moment is that you don't really understand what these modules necessarily do in this context. And if you knew more about summing, but no, I mean, it was because I wasn't thinking deeply enough about it. Because when I saw sum, I'm expecting to see the adding up of voltages, as opposed to the switching between voltages. If you see what I mean. So I wasn't thinking large enough about something as simple as a little mixer, a little summing module. I was thinking far too small. So that's what the out of the box experience is giving you. That's why it's pushing your brain further, because you make assumptions about the functionality of something without fully realizing what it could perhaps be doing, and making those connections between what those things are doing. Still really interesting. I can make my own puzzles apparently at some point once I got through the game. That would be fun. Don't know if I impose those on anybody, but anyway, that's the Signal State. You'll find it on Steam, steampowered.com I think it is. It's about 15 quid, $20. It's not expensive, and it is interesting. Very, very interesting. And I haven't shown it in its greatest light, I don't imagine, on this particular stream. Go and check out Ben Jordan. He did a video on it a few days ago, and he has a much better grasp of all this sort of stuff. So do go and check that out as well. But otherwise, thank you very much for spending time with me. It was a bit of a spontaneous thing to do today. I have, as I say, this morning filmed the Molten Monthly, which is packed and super fast, and I don't know whether I've given anything any justice, but it's done, and I just have to edit it, which will take me a day. So hopefully tomorrow I'll have it done and have it up. This weekend, Friday and Saturday, is modular day, or days or evenings in Spain with Bafaco, and I'll be doing a bit of that. So I don't know that we'll be having a live stream this Sunday particularly, because I think I probably would have had enough by then. But do come and join us Friday night, Saturday night, the 1st and 2nd, for a bit of modular fiddling and talking and chatting and hosting and performances and gear demos over on Bafaco's YouTube channel, I believe. That will be fun. Hopefully I will see you there. I'm not sure how much of it I'm doing. I'll just be doing bits of it, I'm sure, but we shall see. But otherwise, thanks for sticking around. That'll do. What? So next time, what do you want me to do? Is it Call of Duty next time? Yeah, maybe. You're welcome. Thanks for being around, and go make some tunes. Now I've got to work out how I'm going to end this stream by being in the thing with the thing. But yes, cool. Cheers then. Bye.